Rain drummed relentlessly against the floor-to-ceiling windows of my Bellevue office, turning the city lights outside into blurred streaks across Lake Washington. I sat behind my mahogany desk, glass of amber whiskey in hand, reviewing property reports, when the phone rang. The screen lit up with a name that made my chest tighten. Clara. 2 years, too long. Silent years. She had thrown me out with $10 and a cold declaration that I was a failure. I remembered the weight of that bill in my hand, the fluorescent motel lights flickering above, the despair settling like a stone in my chest. And now she called, casually, as if none of it mattered. I let it ring. Once, twice. Memories rose unbidden. The cramped Tacoma apartment with its peeling wallpaper. The hum of traffic outside thin walls. Nights spent on a mattress that had long ago lost its spring. I remembered her standing there with an overnight bag slung over her shoulder, her eyes sharp, calculating, pronouncing judgment with absolute certainty. "Daddy," her voice carried that practiced sweetness I had learned to detect from a distance. I wanted to invite you for a dinner this Saturday. Maybe we could start over." I laughed softly. Bitter. Dinner, Clara. 2 years ago you called me worthless and handed me $10. And now, suddenly, family matters. Her voice faltered. I just thought maybe you'd want to reconnect. You don't know. Maybe you don't know. The lie was paper thin. Everyone in our old circle knew about my success. My rise from motels and labor jobs to owning multiple Seattle properties hadn't been subtle. My transformation wasn't rumor. It was documented, visible in every neighborhood I had revived, in every property whose value I had increased tenfold. I leaned back, fingers grazing a framed photo tucked between the investment documents, 3 faces smiling from another lifetime. My wife, my daughter, empty, strangers now. I flipped it face down. "Clara," I said slowly, letting each word hang in the rain-drenched silence. "Let's be honest. What's the real reason for this call?" She hesitated, a slight tremor in her voice. I missed you, Daddy." I let the silence stretch, letting the rain fill the space between us. Her shallow, quick breath spoke volumes, a rehearsed panic barely contained. My hand found my whiskey again. I swirled it, letting the burn remind me of the nights spent alone, building life from scratch, learning to be my own safety net. By the time I hung up, the storm outside had quieted, but something had shifted inside me. This call wasn't about family. It was about leverage, about money, about manipulation. And I knew my next moves would have to be precise, patient, and absolute. The city lights blurred across the lake, watercolor and rain blending into one. She had reappeared, giving me the chance I had long waited for, a glimpse into the kind of person my daughter had become, and the opportunity to finally teach her the value of integrity. The morning after Clara's call, sunlight spilled across my Bellevue kitchen, turning Lake Washington to molten silver. The espresso machine hissed, grinding fresh beans, filling the air with a rich aroma that made me almost laugh at the memory of instant coffee in that Tacoma motel. 2 years ago, I had been scanning classified ads for day labor, scraping together enough cash for food and shelter. Now I sipped espresso, reviewing market movements and property listings with the precision of a general surveying his battlefield. I thought back to summer 2023. The condemned Beacon Hill house I bought for $42,000, broken windows, sagging porch, a foundation-threatening collapse. Yet I saw potential. 4 months of 16-hour days, learning plumbing, electrical work, and carpentry from YouTube and library books. closing that first renovation for a $65. Oh, profit had been intoxicating. Proof that determination and careful planning could resurrect even the most broken lives. From there, the portfolio grew methodically. October brought a foreclosure in Queenan, a half-finished shell, abandoned loans, a desperate bank, $200,000 purchase price, 6 months of restoration, for $120,000 sale price. Each project reinforced what I knew. Success wasn't luck. It was vision, patience, and the willingness to work while others watched. By March 2025, my net worth exceeded $10 million. Each property was a testament to resilience and strategy. Yet, despite the numbers, Clara's call reminded me of betrayal, not from strangers, but the deep, personal wound inflicted by family. The daughter who once whispered promises of love had become an expert in manipulation, her motives transparent, her timing perfect. I pored over her past attempts at business, Lux Living Essentials, supposedly a boutique online store. On the surface, legitimate. But beneath lay complaints, unfulfilled orders, and financial mismanagement bordering on criminal. Sylvia's Instagram fundraising, supposedly for medical emergencies, didn't match verifiable documentation. Both women thrived on deception, and for 2 years, I had been oblivious. Now, I had time, resources, and knowledge. The city shimmered through rain-streaked glass as I mapped possibilities. Each property, each bank statement, each contract reminded me of lessons learned from scratch. If Clara expected to waltz back into my life with family dinners and investment talks, she had misjudged me. By evening, a plan had formed. I would test her first, reveal her situation in a way that exposed her priorities. Once her true nature showed, I would act. And like before, I had the advantage of power, knowledge, and patience. I drained the espresso, savoring the warmth. Every nail driven, every sleepless night, every lesson learned in sweat and frustration had led me here. Clara had reopened the door, but this time I would decide how she left. Outside, rain blurred the city beyond the glass. The storm outside was nothing compared to reckoning about to fold within. Friday morning arrived crisp and bright, Bellevue sparkling like a city in a postcard. I settled into my office, espresso in hand, lake outside reflecting sunlight like molten silver. My phone lay beside property reports, but my mind was elsewhere. Clara's sudden interest in my life demanded answers and proof of intent. I practiced dialing her number twice, letting my voice tremble just enough to hint at worrying, without revealing control. On the third try, the line clicked. "Dad, I was hoping you'd call," she said, warm and eager. "Clara," I replied, voice faltering slightly. "I have terrible news about my investments." Her excitement dimmed immediately. What kind of news? I let the pause stretch, letting imagined loss settle. A massive downturn yesterday. I've lost almost everything. Foreclosure notices, creditors. Next week will be chaotic. Silence, then a measured click of her teeth. Foreclosure notices. But you said you were doing well. I thought I was. Miscalculated leverage and timing. Disaster. I let sadness slip in, enough to stir concern. "Still, we can figure it out together," she asked, voice tight, testing. "Maybe enough for a small apartment, if I'm lucky. Saturday dinner won't be the same." Her warmth faltered. "I understand. Timing. Complicated." I hung up, letting the click echo. Perfect. Clara's priorities were clear. Money over family. I turned to the investigation I had commissioned. Accounts, complaints, fundraisers, financial inconsistencies. The evidence was damning. Lux Living Essentials had collected over $150,000 from customers, delivering almost nothing. Clara's methods were deliberate. Her mother's fundraising, fabricated illnesses, and reported income, social media manipulation. I arranged the data like a battle plan. Every complaint, transaction, and fraudulent post exposed. If Clara expected sympathy, she would learn the cost of deception. By late afternoon, I was ready. I called defrauded customers, organizing coordinated legal action. Skepticism turned to determination as 23 individuals confirmed participation. Ren Soto, a teacher from Tacoma, became spokesperson, translating outrage into action. As the sun dipped behind the skyline, the pieces were in place. Clara's house of cards was ready to fall, legally and publicly. I had orchestrated every detail. Tomorrow, the reckoning would begin, not with vengeance, but with justice. I leaned back, watching rain streak down the windows. 2 years of betrayal, 2 years of careful rebuilding, had led to this moment. For the first time in years, I was in full control. Saturday arrived grey and drizzling, the kind of morning that makes the city glisten while hinting at tension. I drove through familiar streets, rehearsing every detail. The legal papers were ready, the process server confirmed, and the defrauded customers briefed. Clara and her mother, Sylvia, believed they were hosting routine family dinner, but what awaited them was far from ordinary. The house looked smaller than memory, warm light spilling from the windows, domestic calm in appearance only. I carried a perfectly wrapped gift box, empty, a subtle psychological flourish. Each step through the foyer reminded me of the day they had left me with $10 and a parting judgment. Today, I entered on my terms. Clara emerged from the kitchen, her dress chosen to project confidence. "Dad, I'm so glad you could come despite everything," she said, her embrace measured, practiced. "Water under the bridge, sweetheart," I replied, placing the gift on the side table. My eyes swept the room, the china, candles, the false serenity. Brady, her husband, hovered uncomfortably, sensing but not fully grasping the undercurrents. Dinner flowed with forced pleasantries. Sylvia played hostess, while Clara pitched her financial woes, rehearsed and precise. "Since you've been so successful, maybe we could discuss a family partnership," she began. $200,000 would solve immediate cash flow issues. I smiled faintly, timing everything perfectly. 200,000. That's very specific. The doorbell rang at precisely 7:30. Clara froze mid-sentence. Were we expecting someone? "Remarkable timing," I said, enjoying the pause. A professional-looking man handed Clara a thick envelope. Tate and Voss, legal documents from King County Superior Court. Signature required. Color drained from her face. What? This must be a mistake. The process server's comm efficiency contrasted sharply with the growing chaos. The envelope contained a class action lawsuit regarding Lux Living Essentials and systematic customer fraud. Clara's hands trembled as reality sank in. Sylvia, scrolling her phone, remained confident. "We have lawyers we can call. Everything will be fine." But even she faltered as thousands of notifications flooded her Instagram account. Angry comments, investigative posts, exposure of fraudulent medical claims. "Dad, you knew about this," Clara whispered, panic breaking her rehearsed voice. "Timing is remarkable. "Isn't it?" I said, standing slowly, the weight of 2 years of preparation behind every word. "First your legal troubles, now the public exposure of your mother's deception. Accountability is in motion." Grady stepped back, piecing together the scandal, while Sylvia's confidence crumbled. For the first time, both women faced tangible consequences of their lies. I left quietly, the storm outside a pale echo of the reckoning within. 2 years of betrayal, 2 years of patience, all concluded in perfect symmetry. Justice, calculated and deliberate, had finally arrived. Months later, I stood on the balcony of my Seattle condo, watching the city breathe beneath a pale morning sun. Waves lapped quietly against the piers, a sound that reminded me life could be patient and relentless. Clara and Sylvia's worlds had collapsed, consequences of years of deception laid bare by legal precision and public exposure. Justice had arrived, and with it, an unfamiliar calm settled over me. Clara's restitution payments were ongoing, her prospects reduced to menial employment under court supervision. Every call, every step reminded her of the lives she had harmed and the trust she had shattered. I had given her no mercy, but in short fairness, absolute and undeniable. Sylvia's Instagram remained banned, her fraudulent medical claims under investigation, taxes backlogged with penalties she couldn't hope to cover. Even Grady had distanced himself, protecting his business from collateral damage. I poured a cup of rich espresso, inhaling the aroma, the contrast from past instant coffee striking. The city below, a familiar panorama of ambition and opportunity, seemed to affirm every choice I had made. 2 years ago, $10 had measured my worth. Today, character and integrity were my true currency. I traced my fingers along the smooth surface of my desk, lined with property plans. Each investment, renovation, calculated risk had built a life independent of manipulation and false loyalty. My portfolio grew steadily, proof that patient work and discernment always outlasted shortcuts and deceit. Occasionally, I wondered if Clara had learned anything from her punishment. Court-mandated community service might teach her the reality of hardship. Perhaps she would finally see the human impact of her actions. Sylvia, I knew, was unlikely to change. Narcissism rarely yielded insight. Yet public exposure had dismantled her platform entirely, ensuring she could harm no one further. I set the cup down, turning toward the ocean. Warm sand, gentle surf, and open skies replaced the suffocating confines of past struggle. The motel room, industrial kitchens, endless hours of labor, all were memories now, tempered by accomplishment. What had been despair became clarity. Rebecca, an attorney I'd met recently, joined me. "You seem peaceful," she said, "like you've let go of something heavy." "I have," I replied, eyes on the horizon. "Some people earn their place in your life. Others only occupy space until you understand the value." I smiled faintly. The $10 they once handed me had been their honest assessment of loyalty. But they misjudged everything else. Wealth, freedom, respect. These were mine, and through patience, skill, and steadfast character. As the sun sank into the Pacific, painting the sky in gold and crimson, I understood fully. Life was not measured by others' approval, but by the courage to demand justice and the discipline to build a life of integrity. For the first time in decades, I felt unshakably whole.